The restaurant was quiet in that careful, polished way only expensive places could manage. Soft music drifted through the air, barely noticeable, while the clink of silverware sounded almost deliberate. I moved between tables with a practiced smile, balancing trays, refilling glasses, doing what I had done for years, watching without being seen. That night felt different, though I didn't know why at first. I was assigned to a private dining area usually reserved for high-profile guests. When I stepped inside, I immediately recognized the man sitting at the center of the table. Even people who never followed business news knew his face. Daniel Rothman, Millionaire CEO, media favorite, the kind of man whose name moved markets. Across from him sat three men in tailored suits, speaking German in low, confident tones. Between them was another man, mid-30s, sharp haircut, expensive watch, clearly introduced as the translator. I froze for half a second. Because I understood every word. I wasn't supposed to. Most people didn't know that before becoming a waitress, I had spent part of my childhood in Germany. My mother had remarried when I was young, and we'd lived there for years. I spoke German fluently, without an accent. I approached the table, poured water, and listened. At first, everything sounded normal. Numbers, logistics, manufacturing timelines. Then the translator spoke. He smiled politely at Daniel and summarized what the German executives had just said. But his words didn't match theirs. Not even close. My heart skipped. The German men had just discussed quietly shifting liability for future defects entirely onto Daniel's company, something they clearly believed he would never agree to if he understood. But the translator told Daniel something completely different. Safe, neutral, almost friendly. Daniel nodded, trusting him completely. I felt a chill crawl up my spine. Maybe it was a mistake, I thought. A misunderstanding. Then it happened again. And again. Each time, the translator softened the terms, removed the risks, erased the warning signs. The German executives exchanged subtle glances, quick, satisfied looks that said everything. They knew. And the translator knew. He was lying. My hands trembled as I set down a plate. This wasn't just a bad deal. This was a trap. One that could cost Daniel millions, maybe more. But who was I? A waitress. Interrupting a millionaire CEO in the middle of an international negotiation could cost me my job. Worse, it could embarrass him. Or backfire if I was wrong. I tried to breathe. Tried to think. The meeting continued, and the lies became bolder. That's when I realized something else. Daniel looked uncomfortable. Not clueless, uneasy. He wasn't stupid. He sensed something was off, but without the language, he had no proof. He was relying completely on the man translating for him. I made a decision I could never undo. As I refilled Daniel's glass, I leaned in slightly, just enough so only he could hear me. "Sir," I said quietly, my voice steady despite my racing heart, "your translator is lying to you." The table went silent. Every single face turned toward me. The translator's smile vanished instantly. Daniel looked up slowly. Not angry. Not shocked. Curious. "What did you say?" he asked calmly. I swallowed. "I speak German," I said. Fluently. "And what he's translating is not what they're actually saying." The translator stood abruptly. "This is inappropriate," he snapped. "She's confused." One of the German executives frowned slightly. Daniel raised a hand. "Sit down," he said to the translator. His voice wasn't loud, but it carried weight. Then he looked at me. "Explain." My mouth felt dry, but I did. I translated the last statement word for word. The room grew tense. One of the German men shifted in his chair. Another leaned back, expression unreadable. Daniel turned to them. "Is that accurate?" They hesitated. That was answer enough. The translator tried again, stammering now. "She's exaggerating." "Enough," Daniel said sharply. He looked back at me. "Can you translate for the rest of this meeting?" I hesitated. "I'm a waitress." "You're also the most honest person at this table," he replied. The Germans exchanged glances. There was no backing out now. For the next 30 minutes, I translated everything. Accurately. Clearly. Without embellishment. The deal unraveled piece by piece. Hidden clauses. Shifted responsibilities. Quiet assumptions that Daniel would never catch. When it was over, the German executive stood, polite but tense. They left without shaking hands. The translator didn't look at anyone as security escorted him out. The room emptied until only Daniel and I remained. The silence felt heavy now, but different. "Thank you," he said finally. "You saved me from a very expensive mistake." I nodded. "I just did what felt right." He studied me for a long moment. Not like a CEO evaluating a risk, but like a person reassessing reality. "Why are you here?" he asked gently. "With skills like that, life, choices, bills, bad timing." I shrugged. "Life doesn't always go as planned." He smiled faintly. "That's the truest thing I've heard all day." The next week, I got a call from an unknown number. It was Daniel. He offered me a job, not as an assistant, not as a novelty, but as a consultant for his international operations. Language, cultural analysis, negotiation review. I almost said no. Almost. Months passed. My life changed in ways I never imagined. New office, new confidence, new sense of purpose. But what stayed with me most wasn't the job. It was the look on Daniel's face when someone finally told him the truth. Not because they had power, but because they had integrity. And it reminded me of something simple and powerful. Sometimes the most important voice in the room belongs to the person no one expects to hear.